One very positive aspect of America that Tocqueville talks about and that I experienced myself in my 20 years in the States is the American ability to do commerce. And I'm just going to begin with a section of Tocqueville here. The American neglects these precautions and braves these dangers. He departs while the tempest still roars, because he's talking about navigators and seamen back in the day doing trade with Europe. At night, as in day, he opens all his sails to the wind. While on the go, he repairs his ship, worn down by the storm. And when he finally approaches the end of his course, he continues to fly toward the shore as if he already perceived the port. And Americans just have this gusto in business that Europeans don't have, because here's how he describes the European. Before reaching the end of a voyage with a long course, the European navigator believes he ought to land several times on the way. He loses precious time in seeking a port for relaxation or in awaiting the occasion to have it, and he pays each day for the right to remain there. There is this American attitude that we live to work, whereas for the European it's we work to live. I remember I had a sales team in the United States and we got 2 weeks of vacation. That was normal. And then I hired a sales team in Europe and suddenly I was mandated to give them 5 weeks of vacation a year. So I thought, well, this isn't fair that the people in Europe are getting more vacation for doing the same work that the Americans are doing. So I said to my American team, let's do 5 weeks of vacation here too. The reaction was one of, why would we take 5 weeks of vacation? Oh, don't you think that's bad for the business? And I said, well, I don't think we're going to drop in productivity. Let's try. And sure enough, our productivity was not affected, but some of my American employees didn't even take the 5 weeks of vacation. There's just this attitude of, no, we work. And I do love this about America. And there's a reason that the technological revolution that we're in right now is coming out of America, Palo Alto, and not Zurich. Because the European doesn't take the risks that the American is willing to take, as he describes it back 200 years ago. And he says, I cannot express my thought better than by saying that the Americans put a sort of heroism into their manner of doing commerce. One of the great privileges of my life was doing business with Costco. Costco was our biggest customer, and I have to say there was business in America is like unlike anything else, and it's a great privilege. Now, are there downsides to this? To some degree, business in America is quite superficial. You're not worrying so much about quality, you're just worrying about getting it done. You see the opportunity for a business, and there's nothing stopping you from trying it. Whereas in Europe, people are still hung up on, well, that might fail, or you're not going to be that good at it. Because in Europe, we still have such defined professions, and we have a very strong apprenticeship program and mindset. So a young man is first a long time an apprentice to a carpenter before he himself is a carpenter. It means we have phenomenal carpenters that we don't have here in America. Tocqueville also describes this here. He says, in a country like America, where specialists are so rare, one cannot require a long apprenticeship of each of those who embrace a profession. Americans, therefore, have a great facility in changing their status, and they take advantage of it according to the needs of the moment. He also says, it sometimes happens that the same man plows his field, builds his dwelling, fashions his tools, makes his shoes, and weaves with his hands the coarse fabric. This is the beauty of America, that anyone can be anything and that people are free to try it. I learned to do a lot of things myself here in America that when I went back to Switzerland, people said, well, how do you know how to paint that wall, repair that faucet, tile that bathroom? Why? We're free to do so. But in Europe, it's, well, you haven't been trained for that. So this is an aspect of America that I really love. The one caveat is the quality of it. And I think Americans could say we're going to find more pride in quality of the labor and not just the fact that we can do so many things. For example, I often encountered in the States people willing to do the work, and they did a shoddy job, but they wanted to be paid for it. And I think there's no honor in that. That's a technicality. I did the work. Yeah, but it looks horrible, and it's not going to last very long. And just because you fitted that faucet doesn't mean it's actually going to hold on for a year. But they still demanded to be paid. So the downside to this freedom in America to do anything and this heroism in pursuing the business is that the honor of it and the quality of it suffers. The Europeans, on the other hand, could stand to be a bit more innovative, a little bit more courageous, less comfortable, not looking for a port of relaxation, not taking as many vacations, and actually driving business instead of just waiting for Americans to lead. But that is one aspect of America that I love very much, that Toqueville covers and is still true today.